Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. Today we're going to talk about the Brandon Ingram extension, the Charlotte Hornets sort of protesting this weird Mark Williams thing, and then we're going to draft the 2025 NBA All-Stars. But first, let's hit the music.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Way downtown.
Bang! Bang! What is this going to be? Wow! Are you kidding me?
Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. But if you watch the tape, what you will see completely orchestrated this game. Bryce, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, Sam? How are you doing? I don't know how I feel about All-Star Weekend. I realized today that we're about done with regular season NBA games for a little while. We have the dunk contest, the three-point shootout, all of that stuff. I think I'm going to like a few days off from having to try to keep up on the NBA, and then I'm going to miss having real basketball. And I'm a little bit nervous what All-Star Weekend is going to look like with the new format of the games and the teams and all of that. So I guess if nothing else, we will have this draft between me, you, and GMAC today.
Yeah, I'm most excited for this draft. Laura and I are going away for the weekend.
Good for you.
I will watch very, very little of the All-Star festivities because I need a break. Just a few days off to recharge, and we will be ready to push through. Yesterday, Bryce, I did my first full 8-hour day, starting to prep the draft guide. By full day, I mean genuinely, it is the only thing I did throughout the entire day yesterday was prep the draft guide. It's getting there.
It's close.
We're getting ready. It's not getting close, not even remotely close.
No, but I just the end of the college season has snuck up on me a little bit. I was getting some games off Synergy the other day, and then it shows the full season schedule. I was like, holy cow! Some of these teams only have 5 or so regular season games left, and then we're conference tournaments, and then obviously March Madness, and some teams won't even make it. We're starting to dwindle our opportunities to watch Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper, because right now I don't know how far they're going to be playing into March.
Yeah, I know, right? It's pretty wild. It really is kind of crazy. I'm excited to do some breakdowns we'll do Dylan Harper at some point on the channel. I've done Ace a couple of times already, but I should probably do an Ace Bailey breakdown again soon, just because I think he's shown some growth here over the last little while. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And next thing you know, I'll be over in the United States trying to talk to a bunch of these kids and do game breakdowns with them on the channel. So I'm excited to do that. Okay. Let's start with the Mark Williams mess and continue all of that real quick. And then we'll go to Brandon Ingram, because I don't have a lot to say on the Mark Williams thing. I just want to note a few things here. So according to Shams Charania, the Charlotte Hornets have been in contact with the NBA as they explore options to dispute the Los Angeles Lakers' failed physical assessment of Mark Williams. Sources tell ESPN the Williams-Dalton Connect trade was nixed Saturday, and now the Hornets weigh avenues to challenge. So look, when I've talked to people around the league about this, they've basically kind of laughed the Hornets in regard to this. I understand that they're mad. I understand that they're frustrated, but the overall reaction has been kind of similar to when, have you seen the movie A Few Good Men, Bryce?
One of my all-time favorites, Sam.
So great. This is awesome. So when Joe, Demi Moore in the movie, stands up and she's like, no, I strenuously object to this objection. And the judge is just like, no, you're overruled. It's been taken into advisement. That's what everybody's reaction to this is. It's the Hornets look, I'm not a CBA expert. I'm not an expert in what exactly the league will do here, but the reaction from people around the league in terms of what the expectation here is just that they have no recourse. Their teams can fail physicals. And if the Hornets want to really try and fight this, good luck trying trying to fight this when it's Mark Williams who has played 85 out of 220 possible games in his NBA career. So I just don't, I understand why they're doing this. I think it is almost certainly just a reputation management kind of vibe here where they're trying to just be like, hey, you can't take advantage of us. You know, they're trying to probably rehabilitate Mark Williams's value a little bit in and of itself here, just by saying, look, like, we think it's ridiculous that he failed this physical for them. Like, we've given him physicals throughout the year. He's fine. Like, I'm sure in some respect that's what's happening here. But man, like, the reaction around the league has just been like, you know, this isn't going to go anywhere, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, I understand them being frustrated, especially if they felt like he should have cleared a physical, right? Because he had been playing. And I don't know if I feel bad for them, but I feel like initially a lot of people just assumed Charlotte had withheld information, right? Like they were getting a bad rep of the, and I still know what
for what it's worth. Like, to be clear, I don't think that happened here.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah,
I'm not saying people around the league. I don't have sources around the league. I'm saying, like, I think on NBA Twitter, whatever, most people assumed initially that Charlotte had withheld information or something like that. It wasn't something where LA got a look at Mark Williams and decided there was stuff that they really cared about or whatever. Anyway, I understand why they're frustrated, because they thought he was going to clear waiver, or they were going to clear the physical. They were going to make this trade. They probably felt good about trading Mark Williams and getting the return that they were going to get. Most people, just in terms of value, felt like that was a pretty darn good value for Mark Williams. To your point, if you're Charlotte, and maybe this is a cautionary tale for all teams moving forward, you have to know there's this chance. Like, you've watched him miss games for the last 2.5 seasons. You know that this possibility is out there, and 30 different teams are going to have 30 different ways of going about their physicals and clearing players and all of those things. Like, the medical field isn't a perfect science where everybody sees everything the exact same way. And so
especially in regard to like longer term things that could come down the road but have not happened yet.
Yeah, it's not like we're saying like, hey, okay, you 10 doctors look, is this bone broken or not, right? That's not what we're saying. We're saying assign a percentage to the likelihood that this player will be able to play at this level for the next 8 years. Again, I would assume, I'm not super into this, that this could get in a bunch of different ways, right? Some people could say, hey, 80% chance, somebody else 20%. And then each team has to assign their own, like, okay, we're willing to take that risk. We're not willing to take that risk. When you got what you got from the Lakers, they were going to want as minimal risk as possible. I also wonder, and I heard this the other day listening to one of the podcasts I listened to, does somebody like Mark Williams, and we alluded to this, not get traded on Wednesday night anymore? Like, if you're going to trade Mark Williams or that type of player, our team's going to say like, no, we need this deal done on Monday. So that way, if he doesn't clear what we want to see, we have some other avenue to go to.
Well, and I think I mentioned this on the Monday show, I guess, that we recorded, because it wasn't the Sunday show, but you know, the Super Bowl happened, everything like that.
The Super Bowl did happen. Yes, it's still.
Yeah. Maybe in Bryce's mind, it didn't happen. We'll just run that out of our mind.
Trying to forget it.
Yeah. This was like a totally reasonable explanation that was given to me, right? It was, I'm sure the Hornets like took images of Mark Williams's body, you know, feet, ankles, back, you know, knees, hips, whatever it is, right? Took the imaging of his body at the start of the season or so. They sent along that information to the Lakers, right? I'm not saying this is what happened. I'm just saying this is a reasonable explanation for what could have happened, right? Maybe the Lakers looked at the images that the Hornets sent them, like from the start of the season, which was in like October or something. And now it's February, and they're looking at images that they've done recently, or like literally 5 days ago or whenever they did the trade. And there's been some sort of a change in regard to what the images are showing in a way that the Lakers are not comfortable with. That's not the Hornets withholding anything. That's not the Lakers, making a bad decision or like making like a poor physical. And I'm not saying that this is exactly what happened with Mark Williams. I don't know the answer to what happened with Mark Williams here, but that was something that was phrased to me as like a thing that could very easily realistically happen in a trade in season, something like this, that could be like, okay, the Hornets didn't withhold any information. The Lakers, they just didn't like what they saw in the physical. That's the reality of the situation. And nobody's at fault here, right? Nobody did anything wrong. It's just that the Lakers didn't like what they saw. Maybe the Hornets staff is a little bit more comfortable with what they saw. Maybe, things looked a little bit different at the start of the season when they, took the imaging. There are just so many explanations here that I think people don't quite look at as real potential outcomes. Having said that, like, I have no problem saying this. I don't know if the Lakers got cold feet. I'm not sitting here saying that the Lakers got cold feet. I don't know that. I will say that the question has been posed to me by a lot of people around the league. Did the Lakers get cold feet on this and decide, okay, this is Mark Williams. I feel pretty comfortable that, there are things in the physical that we can look at and fail him, right? That is also a scenario that's been posed to me here. Having said that, in reality, there's just nothing the Hornets can do here, unfortunately, for them. Like that. It's kind of the reality of the situation.
Yeah, I'm with you again. I understand them being upset. They thought they had a really good move, thought they had a good return, didn't work out. It's awkward for them, I'm sure, with Mark Williams, as is. I'm sure it's a little bit with the Lakers and Dalton Connect. We've talked about all of that, but this is part of the deal, right? Like this is part of trades and all of that. Sam, I wanted to test your trivia real quick here.
Okay.
My understanding, I could be wrong here. I think this is right. What was the most recent rescinded or voided trade at the deadline since this one? One happened just a few years ago.
So the most recent one I can think of wasn't quite at the deadline. It was Donatas Motiejunas.
So there's one since then.
Is there?
Yeah.
Who is it?
Bull for Rodney Magruder. Detroit Pistons, Denver Nuggets, and
which player failed that?
Bobo did.
Which honestly, like Magruder's had his problems with injuries too.
So if I remember right, this one was really awkward too because Magruder had gone to Denver. I think maybe it even probably wasn't supposed to. I think that there was visual whatever of him having actually have practiced or what because it was a January trade. It wasn't at the deadline, so I shouldn't have said deadline, but. I remember I wasted my time. I did my full Bull scout, video scouting report, Sam, did all of it, recorded the video, posted it, whatever. And then he didn't pass the Pistons physical, but January 2022, Bull for Rodney Magruder and a second round pick got voided after Bull failed his physical with the Pistons. But yeah, the other one you mentioned, I think is the one that's most famously discussed as the most recent one.
Well, the one that's most famously discussed is definitely the Tyson Chandler.
Tyson Chandler, correct? Yeah.
To Oklahoma City, that was 2009 or 2010, something like that. And that's in the middle of the OKC run where it's they have KD, Russ, Serge Ibaka,
Harden.
I think Harden still might have been there.
Yeah.
That. I mean, if they had Tyson Chandler, can you imagine upgrading Kendrick Perkins with Tyson Chandler on that team? That's what it would have been. So it's pretty crazy, pretty wild, but he had a fractured toe and I guess they didn't like the, whatever it was on the fractured toe. So yeah, those are kind of recent examples of rescinded deals and, feel for the Hornets. I really feel for Mark Williams because I do think that this adversely affects his value across the league. I think that there will probably be a few teams that just aren't as interested in kind of going down this road with Mark Williams, and it'll reduce his marketplace a little bit. I hope that, he is able to stay healthy here moving forward, honestly, because that's the thing that will impact his value the most is being able to play 82 games next year or 70 games next year, whatever it is, in order for him to get paid. But yeah, this is for him. I think the biggest bummer of all is for him because, he's the guy that, it's a lot of money that he's made already. He's probably going to, make 15 million by the end of his fourth year, but there's a difference between 15 million and 115 million, which I think is kind of what he might have been on pace for, just given purely the production at this point. And I hope that it doesn't end up looking like a, Robert Williams kind of deal where there's a bunch of injury protections in there and, he's getting 52 million guaranteed or whatever Rob got. I think it's around that ballpark. So yeah, lot of impacts here for Mark Williams, I think.
And with all due respect to LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller, there's a difference there than playing with Luka Doncic, LeBron James, etc. in LA for potential title contender over the next 5 years, as opposed to where Charlotte's at. Again, I'm not saying they're in the worst place, but I think there's a difference there in terms of scenery and competition level.
Think that is correct. Okay. Before we move on, let's just hit our good friends at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. We love PrizePicks here at Game Theory because of how easy they make it to get real money sports action. Look, I mean, if you were on Xavier Worthy over the weekend, you definitely did well. If you're on Pat Mahomes, you might not have done super well. You were on Jalen Hurts, you probably did pretty well. But moving forward, we got basketball season. You can pick over or under on point totals, rebounding, whatever you want to do. And you can make those picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long over on PrizePicks. Download the app today and use the code Game Theory to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today and use the code Game Theory to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Okay. Next up, I want to talk about the Brandon Ingram extension. Brandon Ingram has signed a 3-year, $120 million extension with the Toronto Raptors. I don't know what to make of this quite yet. I think that my immediate reaction to this isn't that Brandon Ingram is not worth $40 million. It's probably more than I would want to pay for Brandon Ingram, in all honesty. But I think that there are situations around the league where I can see $40 million for Brandon Ingram being worth it. Like if I was the Nuggets and I had Nikola Jokic already and I needed a secondary creator out there, like in a significant way, I can see Brandon Ingram making a lot of sense for a team like that. If I was the Miami Heat or something like that, and I felt like in between Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo, I needed to find like a super creative playmaking wing, I can see more of a case for that than I can see for Toronto. But with Toronto particularly, this is a team that I believe is now 17-35 after they beat the Philadelphia 76ers last night. They're 17-37. I'm sorry. They have the 24th ranked offense, 25th ranked defense. Defense has been a significant issue for the Toronto Raptors ever since Darko took over. Like that, this isn't a new thing for them over the course of these 2 years. They also, I believe now, and I can pull up their cap sheet while we're talking. I mean, I'll just say that I know that they have a lot of money now guaranteed to really like 5 guys in the starting lineup, none of whom are surefire all-stars. Let's go with like Scotty Barnes absolutely could make an all-star game next year, and that would not surprise me. Brandon Ingram could make an all-star game in the East, I think, and that wouldn't blow my mind next year. But like Emmanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, Jakob Poeltl, it would be a fairly large surprise if those guys made the all-star game. And now they are sitting here between those 5 players, Ingram at 38.1, Emmanuel Quickly at 32.5, that's 70.6. RJ Barrett at 27.7, that is 98.3. Jakob Poeltl is at 19.5. That is, what did I say? 98.3. So that's going to be, just doing quick math here, 117-ish, 117.8. And then Scotty Barnes at 38.7. We're up over like 156, 154, 155, somewhere in that ballpark for 5 guys, none of whom you can really guarantee as being all-star players next year. In the luxury tax line for next season, I believe is like 187. And then they're going to draft, let's say, somewhere between 6 and 10. That's another like 5 million-ish, let's say. So we're at like 160 with a tax line of 187. They're going to have to fill out, 8 players on the roster for 27 million. This just feels like a team that is getting wildly expensive. And they have Grady Dick and Ochai Agbaji, Jacoby Walter already on the books. So that's 15 million there for 3 guys. So now we're looking at 9 guys at, what would that be? 175? Yeah. 175 to 180. I mean, look, like they have some minimum guys already. They have Jamal Shed. They have John Mobo, like already on the books. They just signed Jamison Battle.
Hey,
and he is, I think, $950 guaranteed next year or so. Yep. It seems like they're not going to buy out Chris Boucher. And he's an unrestricted free agent. And if you want to retain him, I don't know, another $5 or $6 million over a 2-year deal, probably, given that he's been like a pretty okay backup center this year. I guess that what I'm saying here is that this is a team that's locking itself into this roster a little bit early, given I wouldn't even say this is a rebuild. It's not really a rebuild. It's just kind of a build. And they're locking in their cap sheet to a lot of long-term money with a lot of players that are, I don't know, like the 40th best player in the league to the 110th best player in the league or so. Maybe the 80th best player in the league. I don't know. And like Scotty has more upside than that. And I think that Brandon Ingram could be a top 30 player in the league for a season. That wouldn't surprise me. It just feels like it's going to be difficult to maneuver around in order to reach that next level of contendership to me.
Yeah. To me, this is ultimately going to come down to, I don't think they're trading Scotty Barnes. So you're keeping Scotty Barnes. You've acquired other talented players, right? I think RJ Barrett is a talented player. Quickly is a talented player. Ingram's a talented player. Poeltl probably, when you consider the contract, also maybe the best value just in terms of talent and contract.
Great value center. Yep.
Yes. So my thing is if that doesn't make sense to me. I don't know. Maybe you play those 5 guys together and it works. I don't see how that works because none of those guys, I just think, oh, wow, really nice off the ball player. And now you've taken Grady Dick and put him on the bench. There's no room for your, they have the 5th best odds right now in the draft, actually, with where they're at. We'll see where they end up landing. No spot for that guy in the starting lineup or on ball reps if it's an on ball guy or whatever. So to me, it was just, we're going to acquire talent, which is okay. And then it's well, maybe now you just trade it, right? My worry is what kind of value are you going to get for the contracts that you have all of these players for? That's where I think it breaks down for me in terms of, okay, let's package RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickly. That sounds interesting, other than the fact that they're on the books for $60 million next year. So what exactly is the return if you trade those guys? or if you just trade one of them. So I don't know. And maybe Masai will find those trades and find those moves, and it'll be a Scotty plus BI plus Grady Dick plus this draft pick. Maybe Pirtle stays around, and then you move these other guys and it fills in the gaps perfectly, right? Like, let's acquire the talent and then we'll make trades to fill in the gaps. I understand the talent acquisition. I'm just not sure I agree with it when it doesn't fit, in my mind, in any sort of way. And then they're all on pretty substantial contracts, which means
they're all on large money at this
large point. Money. And I don't know that you're getting great value if you do want to trade them, even if they are good players.
Outside of like the star deals that we saw, there were not many big contracts moved at the deadline. And we saw the Pelicans moved Brandon Ingram for a first round pick that I kind of like, actually. Like, I thought that was a good first round pick to acquire, take a shot on the Pacers, being whatever they could be. But that pick might be like the 23rd overall pick next year at the end of the day. In fact, I would suggest that 2026 pick, its most likely outcome is probably somewhere between the 16th and 25th pick in the 2026 NBA draft, given the Pacers are pretty good. So, and it's top 4 protected. So there's not like top 4 upside, even though I think that the 2026 draft has a real shot to extend value down to like the 7 to 8 range in terms of like really, really high level prospects. So I look at that aspect of it. The fact that it was very difficult for teams to move high salaried players at this deadline. I look at the way that the aprons are impacting the NBA right now. Teams are worried to take on money that could be a little bit in the red, not even a lot in the red. Like, Emmanuel Quickley is a good player. I really like Emmanuel Quickley. I do think he's a starting caliber guard in the NBA. Emmanuel Quickley at $32 million is very aggressive. Like, that's not a deal that's going to be seen as an asset for anybody league wide. RJ Barrett's had like a really great season this year. He's averaging 22 points on 7 rebounds, 6 assists, shooting 47, 35, 66 from the line. You look at his, true shooting percentage this season, it's only 4% below league average. He's a physical defender, especially in the playoffs. GMAC is going to come on here when we draft, and I'm sure that he can speak to that as well. I don't know that contract is seen as a value league wide for a lot of teams. I don't think this Brandon Ingram deal at $40 million a year is going to be seen as an asset league wide. I think it's going to be seen, potentially as a net neutral, but given his injury past, I wouldn't be surprised if it was seen as a negative, in all honesty, for other teams.
I think it's getting a little too positive vibes because he didn't get the max. And so everybody was like, oh, he wants 50 a year. And because he didn't get that, now it's like, oh, well, this was a great deal by Toronto because they got him for 40 a year, where it's like, okay, I can have a palate for that, but I don't think it's a good contract. It's not going to make our top 10 list whenever we do it in the off season. It's not going to be in consideration for that. You know what I mean? Like, I personally would have that as a negative deal. Yeah,
I think league wide, it's a little bit more questionable, but I personally do not see that as a value deal.
I think I think neutral is probably the best way to say it for me right now, especially when you consider the injury history and all that. I think what's interesting to me is, like, RJ Barrett was already on your books for 70% of the money. And so then why I would like to know if they see this as anything other than just straight talent acquisition. This is the only way we're getting somebody this talented to Toronto. It's not going to happen in free agency. We need to add talent and then we'll figure it out from there. Or do they actually think this is going to work together, Sam?
So I think it's twofold.
Okay.
I think that it is talent acquisition, but I think that they've recognized throughout the year and like the 40 games that Scotty Barnes has played, that they just need more players around Scotty that can create their own shot.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with that. I think that honestly, they're right. They need more shot creators around Scotty Barnes. Now, the thing is that, like, do you know how many minutes Emmanuel Quickley and Scotty Barnes have played together?
Well, that's what I was going to have. They even gave this iteration a chance? How much have those three guys even played together?
So Quickley and Scotty have played only 320 minutes together this season. Those minutes haven't been like amazing. They're losing those minutes by 5 points per 100 as opposed to the 4 that they typically lose by. But I think that there is too much overlap in the way that all of these guys play together. Emmanuel Quickley. What is Emmanuel Quickley's favorite shot? He likes to get to that little jump stop floater.
Yeah.
Right? RJ Barrett. He likes to get downhill on his left hand, get into the middle lane, try and finish at the rim, maybe get to a little like jump stop floater, something like that. Scotty Barnes, like he's at his best kind of attacking, getting into the mid range, playing at the elbows, areas like that on the court. Brandon Ingram, where's his best area on the court? He loves to get into the mid range and shoot pull ups. Like that is his thing. I don't know if you can have a particularly efficient offense whenever, like in today's NBA, when everybody is trying to get to that area of the court.
Yeah.
That's my main concern here with Toronto. And oh, by the way, like I saw Darko last night said that, yeah, I have no concerns that Scotty Barnes is going to be a 37% 3-point shooter at some point. I still strongly believe that. I think 36, 37 is what he said. I mean, look, man, we're 915 3-point attempts into Scotty Barnes' career. Do you know what Scotty Barnes is shooting from 3 over the course of his career?
I do. I looked this up the other day when I watched a Raptors game because I didn't realize how low it was this season. He's at 30%. Yeah, he's
30% over the course of his career on 900 shots from 3. 918 it is now. He's shooting 26% from 3 this season. Last year, he shot 34% from 3. So, you know, it was better last season, which is a good sign. But, oh, by the way, like, do you know what he's shooting from 16 feet to the 3-point line this year? And he hasn't taken a ton of these shots. He's shooting 33% on those shots this year. Yeah. So, like, the deep mid-range has kind of eluded him this year as well. Last season, on shots 10 to 23 feet from the rim, he was at like 30, I believe it was like 37, 38%, which is not efficient enough to be able to live off of those shots. It's just really, really difficult, I think, when you're trying to make like Scotty your primary player, to surround him with guys that like to live in the mid-range, when the reality of what you're hoping for from Scotty, in my opinion, is that he can be somebody that like gets downhill, gets consistent paint touches, gets to the rim. I don't know. Again, like I watched like a bunch of Raptor stuff leading into talking about this. Matt Bonner went on Blake Murphy's show a couple days ago and talked about like Scotty not getting to the basket enough and not being able to get to the basket. And Scotty saw it and made it a point against Philadelphia to try and get to the basket more often. I don't know if Brandon Ingram makes that easier for him necessarily. So
here's my thing. Like, just, it's not all about corner threes, Sam, but part of an NBA offense, because it's the most efficient 3 and the way you have to space the floor, you have to have guys that can go play in the corners, right? Like not everybody can play above the break. 7% of Brandon Ingram's 3-point attempts this year are from the corner. 13% last year, 7% the year before. Emmanuel Quickley, 14%. RJ Barrett's actually at 27 and he shoots it well. And the other thing is, you don't have a floor spacing big. I love Jakob Poeltl. I think he's really good. I think he's on a great value contract. it's not like you have Miles Turner that you can say, hey, at least our big is going to space the floor or can go play in the corner. And again, I'm not saying you just regulate players to the corner. What I'm saying is it looks like 5 players who all either want to play above the break or in the mid range or in the middle of the lane. And you need at least 1, maybe even 2 to go stand in the corner, be ready to be catch and shoot guys. And none of these guys, when you first think of them, that's not their thing. Grady Dick.
They're all on-ball players.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing.
This is why Jamison Battle is a player that I know from watching Raptors games, because it's like, oh yeah, he makes sense doing that for them. Stand in the corner, knock down threes, right? You just have to have some mix of that.
They gone about developing Grady Dick as well? Like they've started to make Grady Dick like a more of a shot creator off-ball movement.
When we talked about Grady Dick, it's been more of us being impressed with what he's done with the ball in his hands as opposed to just catch and shoot 3-point shooter, right?
Yeah. So honestly, like the way that this lineup works, in my opinion, is that you make Grady Dick like the off-ball like player. You probably bring RJ Barrett off the bench or quickly off the bench, one of those two, depending on who you want to play point guard. I think I would probably go Barrett personally, but I mean, Quickly has experience doing it, which is nice. Quickly is also making $32 million, which would be wild for a 6th man. I just don't really see how this is efficient salary cap management or how it's going to lead to particularly efficient offense. Maybe just having better players will help, and I think it will help, but does it help enough to completely lock yourself in? I guess.
Sam, not to mention defense. It's not like they got better defensively either.
That's also my thing. Like these guys are not great when they don't have the ball in their hands.
Yeah. So like Scotty Barnes, good defender, but it's not the first thing we talk about with Brandon Ingram. You talk about with RJ Barrett a little bit, right? But like, it's not like
I wouldn't say RJ is like a monster defender though. No, like he's pretty good at one-on-one matchups, but I wouldn't say he like flies around off the ball and is like a havoc creator either.
Yeah. So it's just, it's interesting. And again, like, not that you should be making decisions based on like Jamal Shed, but it's also the best thing he does. Like you just look up and down their roster and that's all it is. And then I'm just like, okay, who are they going to get in the draft? And then how does that player ever get to do this if you already have all of these other guys? And so
it's actually a really good point too. Like imagine if they this would be amazing for them if they get the number 2 overall pick and you get Dylan Harper, right?
Yeah.
But like, okay, so you have Dylan Harper adding to the mix there. Okay, then now you have Brandon Ingram and Emmanuel Quickly and RJ Barrett and Scotty Barnes. All of these guys want the ball in their hands. Like that's 5 dudes who play with the ball in their hands at a really high level. And you can say like, hey, it's a good thing to have a lot of guys who can play with the ball in their hands, but I don't think of many of these players as particularly good off-ball players. And by the way, Brandon Ingram, I would say, is the worst of them off the ball, is actually my issue with it.
That's important. I meant to make that point earlier because we've given a lot of credit to guys like Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving's pretty good playing with the ball in his hands, right? But he does a really nice job playing off of used to be Luka Doncic. Darius Garland, pretty good playing with the ball in his hands. You know what he's really good at also? Playing off of Donovan Mitchell.
By the way, you say this is something like, okay, maybe guys can learn how to play off the ball. Darius Garland was playing off the ball from the time that he was like 14 years old playing for Brad Beal Elite, like up until the time he was 17. He didn't really get the ball until he was like 16, 17, playing in AAU. And then like he continued to like get way better and then played with the ball in his hands. But like having experience playing without the ball is the best way to get good at playing without the ball.
Yeah.
And a lot of these guys just like don't have a lot of experience even really doing that.
it's hard to drill off-ball movements and relocations and hammers to the corner and the timing and the art of cutting and getting comfortable playing on the baseline and all of those things. So that's probably the more important thing here is it's not necessarily an issue that they all can play with ball in hand. It's that it doesn't seem like any of them play great without the ball in hand.
Yeah. So look, to me, this is just leading to more moves for Toronto. I'll be interested to see what those moves are, I guess. I don't know that I have an answer for what those moves are at this stage. I think that once we get closer to the summer, we kind of see where the lay of the land is. I'll probably have a better inkling of that for them. But like, look, when Toronto fans say like, it's hard to get good players to come up to Toronto and live in Canada, I understand that. Like I do. I think that to me, I just would have preferred a better fit that kind of worked across the board for everybody on their roster already, as opposed to a player that I think might be kind of fitting like a square peg into a round hole from, how he works on the roster.
Yep. I agree.
Okay. That's all we got on news and notes and stuff. So let's start drafting All-Stars.
Let's do it.
I think it's time to bring up legend of the show, our fearless leader, GMAC. What's going on, buddy?
What's up, fellas? Always good to hear what a fit of Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett could potentially mean for a team. And it was very tickled by the line from Bryce. I wonder what they could get in a trade if you package them together.
Well, when they were only making 30 million, they could get OG Anunoby.
Mm-hmm.
Now that they're making 60 million,
they could get Karl Anthony
They
Towns.
could get 2 OG Anunobys.
There you go.
OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges. Perfect.
How funny it would be if Emmanuel Quickley ended up back on the bench after not signing an extension with the Knicks. So that way,
when Sam said that was the first thing I thought. I was like, did we not just try this with the Knicks? And did we not like this? And did we not come to Toronto so we could be a starter?
Literally what happened.
Oh my goodness.
If he ends, hey, we're gonna start Brandon Ingram. You have experience, Q. Why not? And
as the NBA turns, I love it.
Indeed.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So what we're going to do here, we are going to draft the 2025 NBA All-Stars. Andrew, can you get up a randomizer and put all 3 of our names in and create?
I got a better idea if it's okay.
Okay. Love it.
What we love to do at Knicks Film School when we do drafts is a fun little game of high card draw. So I've got a deck of cards here. Shout out to the fine folks in Las Vegas who had an airport that I bought this deck of cards in so I could use it every time I do a draft. So, Sam, we'll do you first. Your card is a 4 of diamonds.
Love to see it.
Bryce, you're next. Your card is a 6 of hearts. Uh-oh. GMAC's card is a 2 of clubs. What the heck?
Oh, no.
Okay, so we go Bryce, Sam, and then me. That is the order.
So the rules for this thing, we are not going to do it where we have to pick 2 guards and 3 front court players in our starting lineups. We are just picking.
We can build our team how we want.
We can build our team however we want.
Perfect.
Giannis Antetokounmpo, Anthony Davis, guys that are going to miss due to injury. If there has been a replacement named already, as is the case for both of those players, the replacements are the players we are drafting. We are not drafting Giannis and Anthony Davis here. Andrew, you look like you have a question.
So Anthony Davis is ineligible, so I can't draft him.
Correct.
Yes.
Darn. I was going to draft him and then see if I could trade him for Luka Doncic.
Yikes.
Oh, well.
Absolutely yikes.
You need Max Christie to go along with it.
And a pick, apparently. Just one, though. Just one.
Just one.
Connects too much. And just to be clear, we are trying to draft the best team to win an NBA game, not like the All-Star format or team players that play the best. And we're not trying to draft the guys we think will take an All-Star game seriously or something like that. Like, we're just picking the 8 best player. Like,
let's do it that way.
Okay, because I think I would pick different if it's like, no, we're trying to draft the 8 players to win an all-star game competition. I don't want to do that. We can if you want. I'd rather just pick, like, let's try to pick the best team of 8 in a normal game format.
Right.
Yeah, I'm into it. Let's do it that way. Okay.
Perfect.
Bryce, you are up.
Yeah.
With the first pick.
Nikola Jokic, I think, is the best player in the world. And I'm very happy to have the first pick, even though with the snake draft, it will be interesting what's available when it comes back to me. But very easy first pick of Nikola Jokic for me.
Okay. I think that's probably the right pick, in all honesty.
I also have a strategy, and he fits that strategy very much. I don't know if I'll be able to stay with my strategy or not. We'll see what's there when it comes back.
The reason I think that's the right pick is that I think that is probably the slot that gets a little bit scary, is the center position in this thing. I think there's a bigger difference between Jokic and the other players, basically.
I was going to wait to talk about this till after everybody else picked, but I also feel similar.
Okay. I'm up at number 2. I'm going to take Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Seems like a smart pick.
Yeah. Shai is a stud. He's really good on defense. He is, for my money, the best guard shot creator in the NBA right now. He is incredibly effective and efficient as a scorer. He does it with teams that have great spacing. He does it in lineups without great spacing. He does it in lineups that have sometimes a questionable second option. Even though that second option is an all-star that we will be drafting today. I don't think he's an all-star because he's always the most consistent second option in the world. He's an all-star because he's a great defender and because he is effective and efficient playing off the ball. I think Shai has been, along with Jokic, it is very clear that those are the 2 best players in the league this year, in my opinion.
Okay. So I'm going to vamp a bit because I want to think this through. If you want to, I don't know if you want to update the draft sheet so far, Sam, you can, because I've got a dilemma here, fellas. I've got 2 picks back to back. I can draft with my head and go with my big board of best players available, or I can draft with my heart because I have 2 picks and I may or may not have an affection for a basketball team that has 2 starters.
Well, there's only one of them that you actually care about.
Right. So I can also reset the record for where one actually stands in my heart. Okay. I argued he was better than AD on the emergency Luka AD trade draft. So my bona fides are starting to build their way back up in the game theory world. So I'm going to take Jalen Brunson first. That will be my first pick. And then I'm going to take Victor Wembanyama with my next pick.
Wow.
So
the shade.
That was what I was hoping to do on the return, was to get
Wemby.
So
great pick.
I am now going to have to think through this a little bit more. Explain why you did what you've done here.
I think Jalen Brunson, in argument, could be the next best, not best player available. I won't say next best player available, but as far as a guard goes, there's nobody I would want leading my team more than Jalen Brunson. Want that restated for the record. There's nobody I would want leading my team more so than the captain of the New York Knicks, Jalen Brunson. I've seen him grow from the bargain contract that we thought we got him for, that everybody said was overpaid 2 years ago, to the All-Star, to the playoff hero in that first season, to the MVP candidate the next season, to the high volume scorer, now turned 5-out merchant. Because the funny thing Tom Thibodeau learned this season, if you take 5-out spacing and allow your guys to operate, you can really cook. And it's been really fun to watch this season. With the way I want to construct my team, I think Jalen Brunson, I'm going to optimize him. And what better way to optimize him when with a literal alien that can spread the floor as well. So I'll go with Wemby. I mean it. He's the dinosaur in Jurassic World that is still figuring out, where he stands on the food chain. And for this,
I know that reference too. I'm 2 for 2 on movies.
Look at us.
I'm so proud of you, Bryce.
Not me. It's Wemby. That's why I want to go the pick and roll tandem of Jalen Brunson and Wemby. There's another player that, of course, has meant a lot to me in New York this year, but I recognize game, and I got to make sure Wemby, it would be just above him a little bit, and I'll take Wemby.
Okay. I think there's like a pretty clear pick for me here. I'm going to go Jason Tatum here. I'm going to have two fantastic, awesome shot creators who are also super high level defenders. One of which is a 6'6" guard, one of which is an incredibly high level wing. I probably don't have to worry about like taking a guard if I don't want to now at this point, because having both of these guys as my main creators, I feel pretty good about that. It's a very similar build to what Oklahoma City is doing already, building around Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Jalen Williams is an upgraded version of, Jason Tatum is just an upgraded version of Jalen Williams in a lot of ways, as an overall shot creator, playmaker, passer, and defender. I think Jalen's probably a little bit better of a defender than Jason, but nonetheless, I'm going Jason Tatum here. I think that this is the obvious pick probably on the board.
Love it. So I am up twice, and I will now feel the need to fill my wing room out. And so I will take Kevin Durant and Anthony Edwards.
Ooh.
And I will put two elite level scorers around the very elite level offensive hub in Nikola Jokic, and feel very good about that. I like how this has gone so far with Edwards and Durant being there to play off of Jokic.
Bryce is a squad. So give 3 All-Stars.
Okay, so explain just while I get the updated board up.
Yeah, so
explain why you like the Anthony Edwards fit, particularly with Jokic.
Yeah, I'm a little interested to see how it would work, just because Ant playing with the ball in his hands and all of that, like how much, figuring out to cut off of Jokic and those type of things. I think Ant has been really, really good this year. The other thing is, I think when I watch Anthony Edwards play, one of my biggest things is like just decision making. When Ant has to be the primary decision maker for the Timberwolves, I think that's when things can break down a little bit. They put 2 on the ball and stuff like that. Jokic and Durant, to an extent, make that really easy for Anthony Edwards. A team can't put 2 on the ball, but if they do, just throw the ball to Jokic and he'll figure it out from there. You don't have to do anything else other than get the ball to Jokic, and then he'll figure everything else out. And so I think actually having Jokic on his team to process everything for him, and all he has to do is go be a bucket, makes his life easier. And also maybe gives him some more opportunity to expend energy on the defensive end, where I think Anthony Edwards can be one of the best point of attack defenders in the league when he's fully locked in and engaged in those possessions. Plus, I have Durant kind of as an off-ball roamer, impactful defender as well.
Yeah, I like it. I actually like this a lot. I like what you've done here.
I will also say I thought we're all going to end up with smaller guys on our team. I actually thought this kind of off-ball wingy forward room could be a little bit like being able to go with 2 of those at a high level. I thought was a good strategy.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I wasn't sure that you would take Durant. I was really excited to kind of potentially get Kevin Durant in this group, in all honesty, just as an amazing off-ball scorer with like real size, real energy. All right. I'm going to do this. I'm going to take LeBron here.
Oh, you jerk.
I'm going to take LeBron because I am actually a big fan of the idea of LeBron James as like the off-ball cutter, scorer, just overall decision maker on a team like this with Jason Tatum and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I think having him is like the old head out there to kind of run the show, get out and transition, play make a little bit. When he wants to defend in a big game like this would be, he can still absolutely defend. We've seen him turn it up for the Lakers in their last 10 games. They have the number one defense in the league in their last 10 games. They've been fantastic, as we talked about on the last episode. I'm going to go LeBron James here.
So I was hoping LeBron would last, and I was going to make him my point guard, quote unquote point guard, and just have super size. And I didn't think either of you would prioritize him early enough for me not to get him. So that was a surprise for me there.
My calculation with LeBron was like, do you get the LeBron that knows he's Luka's teammate now? Because that's an energized LeBron that like Father Time has already been defeated by him, but now there's a boost. There's a jump in energy. It's like, oh, I get to play with this now. Okay. But yeah, I mean, obviously it's LeBron James. I'm not going to ask you to explain too much why a Jason Tatum, LeBron James wing room is pretty elite. So
yeah. Andrew, you're up. 2 picks.
It turns out that when you go head over heart, you're still able to draft your heart anyway. I will take Karl Anthony Towns and make him the 4, which is probably what the Knicks are going to do after the All-Star break when Mitchell Robinson returns. This allows me to have a front court of Karl Anthony Towns and Victor Wembanyama on the defensive end. I finally have a wing protector, and you can put Cat as a roamer. You can use him as a big body. Teams are still going to attack him, but there's still an alien sitting behind him that has the biggest wingspan maybe in NBA history. So I will take, and look, I've talked about the 5-out spacing. Now I have one of the greatest shooters of all time as my stretch 4, and an up-and-coming great shooter in Victor Wembanyama as my other great shooter. So I'll go Wemby next to Cat and Jalen Brunson. The Knicks should think about doing this, by the way.
Yeah, that'd be good, wouldn't it? If they could get Victor Wembanyama at some point. You're up with your second pick here as well.
You think Mikal? Maybe we have to throw in Deuce. I don't know. We're out of picks. So, speaking of great shooters, I'll take Steph Curry and I'll put him next.
Yeah, pretty good idea.
Yeah, I have a pretty elite shooting team at the moment. So Jalen Brunson, Steph Curry, Victor Wembanyama, and Karl Anthony Towns. I am probably going to be drafting defense the rest of this draft, but I'm at least able to put one of the best offensive units together in my starting 5. So Steph Curry will be, I guess I'll put him at the 2 guard, but this is more of a Cleveland situation where I'm putting two pretty great ball handlers and shooters as my 2 guards. And just with Steph's gravity alone and what it's going to command, will make everybody else great. So Steph Curry.
Bryce, you know me well. What do you think I'm going to do here?
I hope you don't do what I don't want you to do.
I think I know.
Okay, I'm going to take Jaren Jackson Jr. here.
Yep.
God damn it.
That was my calculation, was that Andrew would take Karl Towns and thus would leave me Jaren on the rebound to play with LeBron.
Can I add to that calculation, Sam? I had a feeling that I knew you weren't going to take Cat. It was very much, will Bryce take him? And once it got through Bryce,
I think he might have, honestly.
I would have taken one of these 2 guys with my next pick.
Yeah.
I was hoping, I was cool with, I would have taken Jaren Jackson Jr. over Cat just because I would have rather had the defense.
Right.
But like, if Jaren was taken and Cat was available, whichever way it worked out, one of those 2 guys is who I wanted as my next pick.
So it's even more of a calculation. I'm talking about when you took Ant and Durant. Like, as long as it made it through there, I'd be able to get Cat back.
Yeah,
so
I was taking those
correctly.
I was taking those 2 wings. It wasn't a hesitation to try to lock in those 2 wings for me.
Gotcha.
Okay. Bryce, you are up with your back-to-back picks.
Oh, I don't want to be up yet. Gosh dang it. That kind of throws off what I want to do here. Jokic, Durant, Edwards.
Yeah, what are you going to do here?
I don't know.
This is a trickier spot for you than what I think you maybe anticipated.
It is, because one of those is definitely what I wanted to do.
I do think that there is a player you should take here. And if you don't take him, I will probably just kind of be forced to.
This is great.
What am I going to do?
You really shook him up there.
Bryce is like totally stumped here. This is great.
I am. This is really bad for podcasting, and I apologize.
It's great for YouTube. Everybody's watching. Man,
look at Bryce here, just stuck.
Man,
gosh, dang.
You're in headlights.
Well, because there's so many little guards, and I just don't want to go there. I had told myself
we got him shook up, Andrew.
Yeah, we do.
I told myself
we're the Eagles' defensive line, Sam.
Oh,
sorry.
Goodness. Is this how Patrick Mahomes looked?
Yes. All it took was 4 too.
Oh no!
It did only. Yeah, they didn't blitz once.
It blitz once. Yeah, I love that stat.
That's an embarrassing stat. All right. The shook me is just gonna default to Jaylen Brown. Gosh, I don't love this. So I'm gonna add another wing. Okay.
So Katie can play the 4. That's not
no. I'm fine. I'm fine with that. I wanted to be bigger in regards to that. What I'm trying to do is not draft one of the little guards, and I'm really, really struggling. And so then I'm like, do I just do something silly, completely silly?
Huh.
Oh boy, Bryce.
Yeah.
Do we need to clock him, Andrew?
Yeah. I will say there's a gamble you could take if you wanted to, but I don't think I don't think it'll work out that way for you. Well, actually, maybe. I don't know.
So right now I'm considering, do I go ahead and buy into one of the small guards, or do I just go fully wings and Jokic and like just have some fun with it, which I think would be a lot of fun. And I'm here for fun. So I'm going to take J-Dub.
Oh, well done. Okay.
So,
wings and Jokic.
I don't know who the point guard is. You can put whoever you want there, Sam.
I'm just going to slot Anthony Edwards there for what it's worth.
That is what I did. And I will just go wings and Jokic and see.
This was some of Ant's best minutes this year were next to DiVincenzo. And
so I will say this allows Ant to play with the ball in his hands a lot more than what I thought was going to happen when I took him initially. J-Dub's used to playing off the ball. Jaylen Brown obviously plays in the Celtics system. Durant can do it. Like, this wasn't my plan initially, but I'll live with it.
This sets up perfectly for Sam.
Yeah, I'm taking Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah,
like
at the 2.
This is like the easiest. This is the easiest pick I've made so far. Donovan has been unbelievable this season, guys. Like, not only is he shot making and defending at a super high level, but like he's big enough to where he kind of fits the mold of what I'm trying to do here, which is I want to be super long. I want to be super switchable. I want to be aggressive on defense. I have enough playmaking here between Shea, Mitchell, Tatum, and then I have the passing that LeBron is going to bring to this team. Yeah, like having another just like super, super high level scorer that can play as both an off-ball scorer or an on-ball scorer, much in the same way that Shea and Tatum and LeBron can. Like it just, this all just kind of blends well for me personally. So Donovan Mitchell for me.
Yeah, if there was any world he got back to me, I was.
Yeah, no.
But although, I mean, Bryce kind of jammed me up too because I'm out of. There's no wings. I kind of need a wing right now. Okay.
You could go supersized. You could play the.
So I will say this. I'll start with actually taking my backup center, and I'll take Evan Mobley.
Okay.
To lean into.
How does he not get back to me? This doesn't make any sense.
So the thought there is that if I want to, it's literally just pick any of the two guys. Well, Cat, Jokic, Cat, Wemby, or Mobley. Playing any two of them at the same time makes sense in my head, whether Mobley's the 4 next to Cat or Wemby. One stretches the floor, the other can be my rim protector. At times with Wemby and Mobley, I just have a very dominant shell. Shout out to Tom Thibodeau. So I'll take Mobley just to be another anchor on my defense. I mean, the way my team's being constructed, there is a world where I may have to play all three of them at the same time. So we'll see what happens. And you know what? I'm also going to take my backup point guard, lead guard, whatever you want to call it. But I also think there are worlds where, because of what Steph can be as an off-ball threat and a catch-and-shoot threat, and what just my entire current starting 5 can be as a catch-and-shoot threat, I'm going to take James Harden with my next pick. So my 2 picks.
Okay, where do you want me to slot these guys?
These guys in?
Harden is your wing.
Let Harden be my wing right now. He's my 3 guard. Okay, but I'm going 3 guard lineup with Cat and Wemby.
This is the ultimate team. You've been watching too much Tom Thibodeau. This is the shit. This is the shit he's been rolling out here.
Bingo. This is Josh Hart at the 4 next to Campaign, Deuce, and Jalen Brunson, baby. This is the playoff lineup they went with Josh Hart at the 4, and then DiVincenzo, Jalen Brunson, and Deuce McBride. It almost got them to the conference finals.
Love it.
You know?
Okay, so I was thinking that Mobley would come back to me. So that's what I thought too.
The unpredictability of the draft, baby.
Yeah, this is now tricky. Okay, so I'm going to upload the new draft board over on YouTube. By the way, Andrew, while I'm doing this, can you give people a quick little update on, hey, subscribe to the YouTube channel, please?
Hey, subscribe to the YouTube channel, please. We are just shy of 16,000 subs, actually. I believe we're at 15.8. Hopefully over the All-Star break, a lot of you subscribe to all the content that we'll be posting. The Cam Boozer video is already up. If you haven't watched it yet, please do. There's an Asor Thompson video coming over the All-Star break that you should check out. And several other things that you should be checking out during the All-Star break, all right here on the YouTube channel. If you're listening, please go subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's hyperlinked in your episode description. So shout out to the Game Theory YouTube channel.
Okay, we're just going to run through the draft order real quick. Nikola Jokic went number 1. I took Shai Gilgeous-Alexander number 2. Andrew took Victor Wembanyama and Jalen Brunson at number 3 and number 4. I took Jason Tatum at number 5. Bryce took Kevin Durant at number 6. Anthony Edwards at number 7. I took LeBron at number 8. Andrew took Stephen Curry and Karl Towns at number 9 and number 10. I took Jaren Jackson at number 11. Bryce took Jaylen Brown and Jalen Williams at number 12 and number 13. I took Donovan Mitchell at 14. Andrew took Evan Mobley and James Harden at 15 and 16. Okay.
Wanted stated for the record for any Knicks fans watching, I took Jalen Brunson 3rd and Victor Wembanyama 4th. But
I will flip those.
I just any Knicks fans watching, I did not take Wemby over JB. I would never do that.
Okay.
Even though they would,
even though they've all probably would. That's actually been like a fun convo, just not to derail us, but like the Luka conversation of like, if a drunk Nico Harrison calls you up and says, would you trade Jalen Brunson for Luka? Do you do it? And I had to look in the mirror and be like, would I do it? And I'm glad I don't have to make that decision. So.
Okay, I'm going to make a gamble here on Bryce. And knowing my partner here. I'm going to take Cade Cunningham at number 7.
You're such an asshole.
I'm going to take Cade at number 17 here.
Oh, it's the biggest loss of the week, Bryce. I'm so sorry.
That doesn't even make sense.
Oh,
He fits the mold of what I'm looking for, and
Not
he's
better than my mold.
he is a 6'6" ball handler, and I have a lot of big ball handlers. That's the idea here. We want to be big. We want to be switchable. We want to be skilled. Dribble, pass, shoot for everybody. That's the goal here. And Cade Cunningham fits the mold. We're going Cade here at number 17. I think he was more likely to be taken than the other guy that I could have taken. So I'm going Cade at 17.
No, he 100% was going to be my next pick.
Yeah.
Based on what I'm trying to continue.
That was also my calculation that you might need to actually start Cade on this team.
Oh, no, I wasn't going to start him, but he just made a ton of sense coming off the bit. Like just continuing to try to avoid. I'm not going to be able to not draft one of the small guards. I don't think. I was trying to as much as possible, but I don't think it's going to happen.
We're all going to have to draft a small guard at least.
Yeah.
I did. So.
You have 2.5 already.
I was going to say.
If you drafted 2 more and Sam drafted 2 more, I wouldn't have to draft any of them. Which is not going to happen. Okay, so I have to take Şengün here just so I have a backup big.
Yep.
And maybe that if there's a way of maybe putting a chink in Sam's armor, he only has 1 big and he's only going to have 1 big now.
That's true.
And so maybe
for what it's worth, Şengün was the other option for me. So I don't think he's the best player left here, but just based on draft strategy and some of that, I think that's probably the right decision. And he can do Jokic things, sort of, in the non-Jokic minutes. Now the question is, do I fully buy into my roster construction here? No, I'll take Damian Lillard. I'll take Damian Lillard here, and then we'll see what's left whenever it comes back around. So Albert and Şengün and Damian Lillard.
Not the small guard I would have taken, but I obviously not a bad pick.
I think Damian Lillard has had a hell of a season.
Oh no, I'm not even saying he hasn't. There's one other one that I'll wait till.
I mean, it would have been him or Kyrie.
That's the other one.
Yeah,
I would have taken
for sure.
Kyrie.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I'm cool. I think Damian has been incredible this year, shooting the 3 ball extremely well, getting to the lane, pressuring the paint, getting to the free throw line, creating for teammates. I think it's been a little undervalued, the type of individual season he's had, even though defensively we know it's still not great. So
with Anthony Davis and Giannis being ruled out, the All-Star game is just like a smaller group of players.
Real quick, to that point, I didn't even pay attention to the teams till I did this. Was it like Shaq hoarded all the big guys? No, it wasn't. No, Chuck hoarded. One of them hoarded all the big guys too. This is going to be a very fascinating little competition of. Anyway, sorry, Sam. Because
I agree.
When you take those guys out, it gets even smaller.
So I felt like I needed one more bigger player. So I've gone with Pascal Siakam here.
Yeah.
Speaking of underrated seasons,
he's been really
Siakam has led the Pacers to a top 4 seed. He's been their best player this season.
Yes, he has.
Averaging 21, 7, and 3.5, shooting 53, 41, 78. He has upped his 3-point volume to 4.2 per game. That's his high since the 2021 season. His 41% from 3 is his career high to this point. His free throw percentage, I believe, is the 3rd highest of his career to this point. The shooting has been absolutely terrific. His assist to turnover ratio has been absolutely terrific. He's only turning it over 1.3 times per game. I have a super switchable dude who is big, who's long, who's athletic, who can shoot, who can dribble, pass, shoot. Again, that's the whole name of the game with this team. Big dudes who can dribble, pass, shoot.
I was hoping.
Andrew, you're up.
So at a certain point, agendas come into play. And I'm just going to say, I'll just say this out loud. There was an effort on my end to not draft a Boston Celtic, a Miami Heat, or a Indiana Pacer. I thought I was going to end up having to take Pascal Siakam. And then, of course, there's another player that just got named that I'm not allowed to take. So this actually became very easy for me because, like I said, agendas come into play. And the 4 remaining players are Darius Garland, Tyler Hero, Kyrie Irving, and Trae Young. It is against my everything I believe in to take Trae Young, so you can cross his name out. And Tyler Hero can go away too. So I will take Kyrie Irving and Darius Garland with my last 2 picks.
Yeah, both really good players.
Very good players. Yes, Darius Garland, honestly, I would put ahead of Kyrie with the season he's had, and then Kyrie, so good that his president of basketball operations thought that they could trade Luka. So yeah, I'll take Kyrie and Darius Garland with my last 2 picks.
Okay, so
it's a small world after all on my team.
So this is hard because I do love Trae Young unconditionally.
Unconditionally.
One of my favorites, but he just doesn't quite fit this team. I do think I want to take Hero. He fits exactly what I'm going for. Again, I think I have nobody under 6'5" now. Mitchell's 6'3", I guess, but Mitchell has a 7-foot wingspan. Probably plays bigger than Hero does. I'm going to go Hero at 23. Give me like a real sniper off the bench kind of player. They can come in, play off the ball, off of all of these guys. I think it's just a better fit for the roster. I'm going Tyler Hero.
Okay, now that we've done our practice draft, can we hit record and restart? So I should have just taken Siakam where I took Dame because I was going to end up with a little guy anyway. And I really would have screwed Sam over by forcing him to take one. So that was probably my biggest miscalculation. Like some of the other stuff, the board just didn't fall the way I wanted. I should have just taken Siakam there and just lived with the fact that I was going to have to get one little guard. And now I'm going to end up with 2 because I took Dame instead of him.
Can I spin it a different way, Bryce?
Sure.
Because you loaded up on wings, Trae can still be, if you want to rejigger your rotation, your backup point guard to Dame. And then you have multiple wings that can be each other's backups. And
so
your 8-man rotation makes a ton of sense.
Essentially, it doesn't make sense the way I wanted to construct it. But if you just simply take J-Dub or Jaylen Brown out of the starting lineup and insert Damian Lillard into the starting lineup, it actually is very balanced when you look at it that way. It's just not the lineup I envisioned of like, Sam got the roster I envisioned and wanted to get. And so, yeah.
You want to make a
so
trade?
Here's my only counter to that, Bryce. By taking Jokic, you made it harder to make that roster. I actually don't know if you can build the roster that you want to build with Jokic, even though Jokic is the best player and I absolutely would have taken him at number 1. I think that his presence makes it harder for you to do what you're saying you wanted to do.
That path. Sure.
Yeah. Because no matter what, we were all going to end up with a smaller player. Like there was just no way.
That was one of my biggest takeaways whenever I was putting my board together was like, man, this is small and the wing room isn't as impressive as that's why I thought if I could hoard the wings, I might screw you guys over. If I could just really, really, and that's why like I wanted to get Cade and even Evan Mobley because even those guys, would fall. I knew they would end up being kind of forwardy, Mobley, not Cade, obviously, but like Mobley would end up being a forward. And I thought Towns might end up being a forward too, even before we did it. So, but
yeah, Mobley was one that I wanted. Like I was hoping that I would get Evan, but the way it worked out, like Siakam's fine as my backup center. Honestly playing small with LeBron as my backup center. Like I'm totally good with that in this group. I can play 2 of those 3 guys at once and then just have a revolving door of dribble, pass, shoot guards. So that was kind of the plan.
I just love the shooting and the spacing of my team. So I'm actually very, very comfortable with the roster I put together. The fact that I have like Steph and Wemby and Cat next to Brunson, next to Harden, 2, focal points of my offense. And I'm like talking about Steph Curry like he's like this floor spacer. No, he's the greatest shooter of all time. So there's going to be nights when he's the reason, like everybody else, making him easier to succeed. So yeah, I'm happy with my team too, as small as it may be.
Your team is interesting because you should be able to get taken advantage of on the perimeter with your guards defensively.
Mm-hmm.
But then you still have Wemby like behind them, protecting the shit out of the rim.
It's a very much a can you outscore us team, because I don't think go ahead, get past my first line of defense. There's the greatest wingspan of all time waiting for you. And then on the other end, like, can you score 150 points? It's
kind of interesting. I dig it.
Leaning into offense on this. So
I dig it.
Yeah.
I feel good. I feel good about all 3 of our teams actually here. I think we all did very well.
Well, if people want to go, oh, sorry, go ahead, Bryce. I was
just gonna say, you guys feel better about my team than I do.
You have a balanced team. I know you didn't want to make a balanced team, I guess, but when you stand back, if you just make one sub, you are the only one with a backup center, a backup point guard, and a backup wing.
No, I changed the depth chart on my Google sheet, and I feel better about it. It's just that I backdoored my way into it. It wasn't what I set out to do. And as somebody who's about the process, I feel like I failed my process. And even if the result ended up okay, and that's frustrating.
Listen, Rob Pelinka went out to coffee and backdoored his way into Luka Doncic. So I'm going to make fun of that trade for the rest.
Unfortunately, I wasn't drafting against Nico Harrison with Sam Vecenie and GMAC. So
Max Christie would have somehow got drafted in this draft. So
I will say, with my team, I am very happy that I think I'm the only team that doesn't really have a weak link to attack defensively.
True.
Hero, you can, but Hero's my 8th man.
Hero's the biggest one. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm very happy not having the weak link to attack defensively.
LeBron and Cade are going to give up some backdoors off the ball. There's going to be some off ball issues between those 2 guys. But I'm
just going to also add Siakam to that list too, if I can. But I recognize when you have Jaren Jackson Jr., you're short up. So
and LeBron, frankly, on the weak side too, because that is what LeBron is good at, is still the weak side rim protection. Shea is also a monster weak side rim protector too for guards.
Who's the best point of attack defender of these 24 in your mind?
Best point of attack defender of these 24.
I probably have J-Dub?
I was going to say J-Dub.
I think that's probably the right answer. Yeah.
Okay. I still think
that's probably the right answer.
In an isolated possession, I still think Anthony Edwards is really, really good. It's just you don't see it happen enough to give him that level of clout. But yeah, I mean, I think between Ant, J-Dub, Jaylen Brown, I can guard you at the point of attack.
I agree.
I don't have the off ball rim protection that you have with Wemby or Sam has with Triple J, LeBron, etc. Yeah. So
that was the goal. I wanted to be able to scramble around and fly around and just rotate and play crazy defense and just move around. And I feel okay about where I ended up.
That's the problem with inserting Dame into the starting lineup, GMAC, is then now I automatically give you somebody to attack.
True.
As opposed
to you're attacking the Jokic Dame ball screens. That's the concern there.
Yeah,
sure.
Where if I start the wings, I actually feel like I can really, really defend you guys. But then,
can you outscore us though?
2 little guys off the bench. I mean, I do have honestly Jokic and Kevin Durant.
That is very true.
I was going to say, like, you might just be able to outscore everybody with Jokic. Like, that still might work.
And Durant and Ant. But yeah. I don't like the off the bench stuff.
Well, either Tibbs or Mike Maloney or your coach then. So Jokic is playing 40.
Well, and look, it makes sense as well that you don't like the guys you have off the bench because yes, you got Jokic and Jokic is like the cheat code of this thing, but you also ended up with the last pick in the round 2 out of 3 times for your bench players.
Sure. Yep.
So it would make sense that that's the case. Okay. Andrew and I are going to do Rec Center real quick. Bryce, you're allowed to leave and no longer be here. So Bryce, tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on.
Yeah, real quick. Motor City Hoops on Twitter, Blue Sky, Motor City Hoops Substack, which will have a little hiatus after the games for the Pistons stop for All-Star break. Maybe I'll have some All-Star stuff. Probably not. Don't really care that much. And the Pistons Pulse podcast, and otherwise Game Theory podcast with Sam Vecenie right here. Would love to stay and talk movies, but if we're not going to talk about A Few Good Men or Jurassic World, I will be insignificant in the conversation.
Let's see. Any older movies that I've seen recently?
Because I, in fact, can handle the truth. And so I know the truth is that I would be not a value add.
Bryce, have you?
Code Red. There you go.
I love it. I love it. Have you seen Train Spotting or Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome?
I saw a Mad Max. It wasn't that one.
It's Fury Road. Yeah, you saw Fury Road.
Yeah. I liked it. It was a good one.
Yeah, it is.
Fury Road's amazing. Okay. Bryce, get out of here. Good to see you.
See you guys.
Have a good break.
Here comes Andrew and I talking Rec Center. Okay. Andrew.
Yes.
What movies have you seen recently?
Oh, I thought this was going to be like you say what you've seen and I bounce off.
Yeah,
So
we'll go back and forth.
So I saw Sing Sing and it like immediately
we saw Sing Sing the same night randomly.
I believe we did, and it immediately crept into my top 5 for the year. And a lot like Nomadland, except the subject matter was more impactful for me.
Yeah.
The movie,
honestly, just a more exciting movie to me. Sing Sing. There's just more going on than in Nomadland.
For those who don't know,
it's more enjoyable. Yeah.
Yeah. For those who don't know the premise, the Coleman Domingo plays a prison inmate at the Sing Sing Correctional Facility in upstate New York. He is doing time for a crime that he believes he either didn't commit or has been unjustifiably sentenced to a longer sentence than was deserved. And there is a program, RTA, rehabilitation through arts at the prison, where inmates are able to participate and put on plays, and they write a script, they rehearse, and then they do a performance for the rest of the prison. And I'm not going to spoil the castmates of each play, because I think that's actually a reveal that shows up at the end of the movie that hits even harder. But you get almost a visit to this world, which exists. Like, this is a real program that exists at this facility. So you at least know that going in. And Coleman Domingo is great. Clarence Macklin in a surreal performance. There's some things that happen in the third act that felt like, because they felt like they were trying to create tension and drama, that I understood why it happened, and it does trigger some emotion that make the situation even more real than it was. I didn't necessarily need, because the whole situation was real, but I loved it. And you weirdly leave on a feel good note, but recognize it's hard to feel good about the overall situation, but recognize also that they're literally making the best of it through what they're doing. So I loved it, Sam.
Yeah, I loved it too. It's definitely in my top 10 for the year. I think A24 just like so bungled this release because it came out, honestly, I think it might have been at TIFF in 2023 even. and it came out like sort of wide in the not wide, I guess, like it never went wide. It was a limited like platform release in August of last year. And I feel like a lot of people just did not get to see this movie. And I'm glad you brought up Nomadland. There is a reason that it's like reminiscent of Nomadland that we won't say. It also like weirdly reminded me of like, it's different than Coda, but just like you walk out on that same high, I guess, of like the feeling that you get from watching Coda. Like you just feel really good watching Sing Sing. Like you feel amazing watching these inmates try to better themselves, because that's ultimately what it's all about. It's all about, these are people who did bad things in most cases. Some of them, particularly one is wrongly accused, according to the story, but these are people that did bad things that very clearly want to improve upon who they are as people. And I think that's just like kind of a universal story that like that this is not nominated for Best Picture is baffling to me, honestly. I just don't. A24 has done such an amazing job. And I do wonder if like The Brutalist kind of took up a lot of oxygen there. They recognized early that was going to be their meal ticket in terms of like a potential Best Picture winner. So they maybe threw all of their weight behind that. But I mean, I would recommend literally everybody see Sing Sing. There's just not a person I would like. There are people I would not recommend The Brutalist for. We're going to talk about Anora. Like there are people I wouldn't recommend Anora for. I would absolutely recommend Sing Sing to literally everybody. It just makes you feel great. Yeah, I agree with you. Like there are some problems in the third act. I do think that, they try to build tension, and I don't know if the character choices they make with Coleman Domingo work quite as well as what I would have liked, I guess. And it does feel a little bit contrived, and that's based on like how they've characterized him throughout the entire film up to that point. But yeah, like the fact that Clarence Macklin is not nominated for Best Supporting Actor is like completely baffling to me. That this is not up for Best Picture is completely baffling to me. It's like so down the middle for the Academy. It's so down the middle for everybody, like as a person. I don't think this would win necessarily, but I think it'd be on the top 5 of a lot of people's ballots for sure if it was nominated. Yeah, this is a movie that is like a wholehearted recommend, I think, for everybody across the board.
Yeah, and to your point about just A24 dropping the ball, impossible to see it. And I live in a city where this thing mostly
you live in New York City.
Yeah, and it was just like, so just to give you a layout, I live in Queens at the moment, and where I'm from originally, where I grew up on Long Island, it was playing in a theater that's like 30 minutes even further east, closer to the Hamptons, like where all the rich people live. And that's like where I could have gone to see it. Meanwhile, like Wicked was playing at the theater 10 minutes from me with 7 more theaters. It just kept playing for weeks and weeks. I understand a demand is necessary, but I could not find this thing. Like I know I was playing at the Lincoln Center one where all the premieres happen, but even that got a limited run. And it became impossible to try and go see this unless you had like the one time to go see the one showing on a Wednesday at 11 a.m. And it's now VOD, and I'd recommend it to anybody, like Sam said.
Completely agree. So let's go to Anora next. So when did you see Anora?
I saw it either late last year or early this year, like either early January or late December.
So I saw it maybe a week and a half ago at this point. Just didn't like get around to it, I guess, for whatever reason. Like I've been able to watch it for 2 months now, probably, and just haven't gotten to it yet. I liked it, and it's worth noting. So Anora just won at the Directors Guild, and just won at the Producers Guild, and just won at Critics' Choice, Best Picture, all 3 of them. So it is very clearly right now the favorite to win Best Picture. There's not really another way to phrase it. I think Emilia Perez is like out. It seems like at this point, thank God, that movie is not very good.
Hit the self button, unfortunately.
Yeah. The way that I wrote that movie up on Letterboxd was, it is like when Bartolo Colon came to bat. There are exceptional moments in that movie. Like the El Mal sequence is amazing. I think the opening is really, really good. Basically, Zoe Saldana is like incredible in that movie, in Emilia Perez. But much like with Bartolo Colon, when he would come up to hit, yes, there would be the occasional bomb where he would hit it. But 75% of the time, 80% of the time, he would end up with the helmet like twisted onto the side of his head because he swung too hard, and he would hit like 9%. He would get a hit on like 9% of his at-bats. That's what this movie felt like. An enormous fucking swing with like 2 home run sequences and an actual thing that worked like 9% of the time.
Yeah.
Anora is not that. Anora is good. I liked Anora quite a bit. If you were making me rank the best pictures, I've seen 9 of the 10 so far. I've not seen I'm Still Here yet. If somebody wants to send me a screener, please send it by all means.
The one I haven't seen either. Same. I'll echo that from Sam. Yeah.
Please send it. send the video. Anora, I would have probably like 4th or so, like 3rd or 4th or 5th in terms of best picture for me right now among the candidates, the nominees that are there that I've seen. And I think the reason for that is that the ending didn't work for me quite as much as it has worked for other people, seemingly. Mikey Madison is amazing. She's incredible. Like I think that she probably would be my pick for best actress this year ahead of Demi Moore. I think that her performance just elevates this film in such an unbelievably remarkable way. And I think that when I watched it, I was like, this is like a 3.5 or a 3.5 star movie. And then like, the more I thought about it, I was like, okay, this is like a 4. This is like a solid, like if I was ranking it like 80 to 85 out of 100. Right. So like a movie that I really liked a lot. And it just feels like to me, my issue is that the Ani character is like not as fleshed out, I think, as I want her to be like throughout the film. The narrative is incredible. I think the way this thing is structured is amazing. Like this movie is hysterically funny in parts. There are sequences in this film that I think I laughed harder at than like a majority of the movies that I've seen this year. And I'm up to like 105 to 110 now from 2024 that I've seen. And I just felt like I needed her to be a little bit more fleshed out. Like this has gotten compared to Uncut Gems a little bit. The difference between Uncut Gems and this to me is that the Adam Sandler like main character that you're following throughout the film, you completely understand that character's motivations. You completely understand what's driving him. You understand like his faults, he's not a character that has many positive attributes, but like you understand some of those things. I felt like throughout I did not understand the Ani character's motivations quite as much as I wanted to, I guess. And that's what kind of holds it back for me a little bit.
Look, the comparisons to
and to be clear, that's why it doesn't, the ending didn't hit for me quite as well as it did for other people, I guess.
Well, the ending, if you're comparing it to Uncut Gems, it's impossible to, like, the Uncut Gems has a final conclusion for the character. So it's tough to, I wasn't able to compare it that far in because I do understand the Uncut Gems comparisons with the pace and the edge of your seat from minute 1, from the moment her fiance or her husband disappears, and you're just like, it becomes that movie for the rest of the movie. A scavenger hunt with 2 henchmen that are dopes and a screwball comedy. and you're just like going on this ride with them for the rest of the night. Yeah, that felt like the anxiety-inducing thrill ride that Uncut Gems was, but there was a very clear, tunnel that you were going through in Uncut Gems, and you didn't know if the light at the end was the other side or an oncoming train. And if you no spoilers for Uncut Gems, but I'll let you can imagine how that what it was for Adam Sandler's character. The moment where her character has to face reality finally, when they're getting onto a plane in the third act, is one of the more gut-wrenching moments for me in watching a film in 2024. And that was like, you're along for the ride with her. You're trying to keep up this illusion that she believes in. And then the moment it just hits her, and the shame and the guilt, and she has this bravado that she puts on throughout the movie, and then suddenly it just is, and this is what goes into the performance, and it's why it's very driven by a very strong performance. You feel it, and I felt it, at least. I felt it strongly. I understand if the very ending reads a little hollow and isn't earned, but that moment absolutely was for me.
See, like the ending even worked like a little bit better for me than like that did.
Okay.
Because I don't know, like we're like veering into spoilery territory now with Honora. So like, if you want to watch the movie, like watch the movie and fast forward for like a minute or two. The whole time it did kind of feel like to me that she kind of knew what this was though, as well.
Oh, see, I didn't get that.
So like, I kind of got the vibe that like, I didn't think that like she felt like the guy like was like head over heels in love with her. I thought that she felt like it was just kind of fling, and she was trying to take advantage of him.
I didn't get that. So we got the same thing, but I thought her realization that he's no longer able to be taken advantage of, that she was manipulating him the whole time to further herself. She felt something for him, but it's more of a,
she's not the one that has the power.
She thought she had a golden ticket, and there were multiple people trying to take her golden ticket away. And all she had to do was find him and be like, hey, remember, like, this is us. And the moment he takes it away from her, and it's like, of course, this is how, of course, that golden ticket wasn't real. Like, it was just a piece of wrapping paper. That moment for me was very earned. So
the
that's
film
what I'm
is
alluding
obviously
to.
Like, it's all about power dynamics as well, right? The power of sex, the power of money, the power of, status in the world, essentially. I don't know, like, she's so realistic, like, throughout the film, that I felt like she expected this at some point. Maybe she didn't expect it like in that specific moment, maybe. But I felt like the whole time she was questioning, like, is this going to work? Like, when I meet him, like, am I going to actually be able to convince him that, we're in love and like, this is all going to be good? You know what I mean? Like, I was.
Well, his abrupt disappearance, though, the last memory she has of him is the head over heels nature.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's why I didn't think she had ever a reason to doubt it. Now, the idiots that she was talking to, or the henchmen that were supposed to be watching him, like, I'm sure that she realized, like, oh, what have I gotten myself into officially? But that belief that the last connection I had with him, the last memory I had with him, was this, young boy that I got married to and felt the way he felt about me. We'll just pick up where we left off. And, that obviously wasn't the case.
Yeah. And so, like, even with that, though, I guess that the reason that I love the energy of this movie, again, like, it was genuinely funny. I love the structure of the film. Like, I love the performances, like everything about it, like technically worked for me. I feel like I don't know how Baker actually feels about the character at the center of the film, actually, was kind of my reaction. Like, does he pity her? Does he like think she's an idiot? Does he think that, like, you know, sex workers are completely and utterly taken advantage of? I think that that's probably true to some extent. I mean, it's definitely true, but like, do I think that he thinks that? Like, I think probably on some level, all of his films involve sex workers in some way, shape, or form. So, like, yes, I struggle a lot with like his characterization of the main character. I think is the reason that I was like, this is a good movie. It's not like the Brutalist worked for me way more than this did, in all honesty. And we've talked about the Brutalist at this point, but like, you have not talked about the Brutalist.
I haven't, and I don't know if I should. I just don't know if I should.
Yeah. Do you want to? You're allowed.
Well, just my very quick spiel about the Brutalist is that I understand, like, I get it. It is an experience. It is a masterpiece. I acknowledge it. It's very long, and I don't know if I was caffeinated enough for it. I'm not trying to say that movies can't be 3.5 hours with an intermission. I'm not saying that like if a movie is more than 2.5 hours, it should be banned from, like, it's not a snooty film. Well, maybe
it's really not. Yeah.
There's a moment in the first hour of the movie, we'll call it, or there's just a sequence where Adrian Brody builds a library, and he stands in a room.
Library.
It's a great library. It looks great. And then there's a moment where he's standing in the middle of the library and he's looking at the library he built. Then he leaves the shot and all you're looking at is the library. It's a long time for us just looking at a library. And I just, if that works for you, great. And I'm all for it. Like, I want people to enjoy things. It just, at a certain point, like, all right, what's next? Is he going to build something else? And then he's going to go to something else, someplace else, and build that. And I do get it. Like, I do understand the immigrant experience, especially now more than ever in the country that I live in. Like,
it's a real. We used to build things in this country.
Like, I very much love the meaning and the appreciation. I hope this thing wins Best Picture. I know it's probably not going to, with the Nora now inserting itself into the race, but I would never say a bad word about it. This isn't a bad movie. It just, you either love it or you respect it. I think I respect it more than I love it.
Yeah. So I loved it. I've talked about it. I don't need to like dive deeper into it at this point. The movie I do want to talk about though is Nickel Boys, which I know you have seen as well. And to me, my two choices, like if I had to pick one of them to win, would be Nickel Boys or The Brutalist. I think I'd probably pick The Brutalist, but they're both just very ambitious in the way that, like, I truly love film for being. If you've not seen Nickel Boys, it's almost impossible to talk about this movie, I think, without spoiling like a key characteristic of it.
Yeah, I'll honestly just say the premise. I think that's all you should say at this point. So the main character is a young Black kid who he's a special student, and he is told by one of his teachers who takes interest in him that you should go to a special, like a higher learning school when he's in high school. He gets he hitchhikes on his way there, and it's a man who has stolen the car. They get pulled over, and because he's a minor, he gets sent to, back in the 20s, they call these nickel schools. And there are different versions of this. Is juvenile hall, basically, for people who don't know what that is. But back then, there was a different version that white kids went to, and then ones that Black kids went to, and you get to see his experience living and growing up in a nickel school. But the way that it's shot is through the first person perspective. You're watching the movie through his eyes. So it almost works like a found footage film. But honestly, that's all I want to say about it, because it's an overwhelming experience watching literally through his eyes what he sees, what he goes through. When atrocities happen in front of him, he puts his head down and like the camera goes down. And so it's almost like you're experiencing the shame and the fear and the horror through that perspective. It's something I've thought about since I've seen it. And so I recommend anybody seek it. It's now also on VOD, so I'd highly recommend it.
I do think that this is a borderline masterpiece.
Yes.
Just kind of genuinely. Have you read the book?
I haven't.
So I have read the book. I have it down there somewhere. It's a Pulitzer Prize winning book, so I'm not breaking news here that it's like an incredible book, but it is like a truly incredible book. And so for people who don't know, like I did my double major, like in communication and in film, right? And I did my thesis for my undergrad for the film like degree that I have on adaptation of like written material to screen, right? The brilliance of Ramel Moss to come up with the idea of shooting this in first person and seeing what this person sees through his own eyes is absolutely like among the most brilliant pieces of adaptation that I think have happened in like the last decade of film. Giving that perspective to this film of it being first person is so heartbreaking and like just so like heart-wrenching in so many different ways that like I've wondered for a while how they would go about adapting this, because it's been known for like a year and a half or 2 years or whatever that they were going to make this. And I really wondered, like, how are you going to get across everything that Colson Whitehead is like trying to portray? And how would you get across like there are twists in this thing, right? How would you get those across? How would you be able to do that? And honestly, like, I don't even know that the main twist is handled super, super well, if I'm being completely genuine about it. And that's like the one thing that holds it back for me to be like, okay, this is like definitely a masterpiece, to this is almost there. Like it's just like very, very slightly off. But the perspective that this thing has, the ability to showcase like experiences just directly through the first person eyeballs that this person is seeing things happen within. It's a genuinely brilliant decision, in my opinion, to adapt this book in this way with this kind of camera work. It's crazy to me that it's not nominated for cinematography. It is nominated for best adapted screenplay, but I think that's kind of a weak category if I remember this year. And that's kind of the reason they got in there. One of the two screenplay categories is weak. I can't remember which one it is. But yeah, like I'm with you. I've not stopped thinking about this movie since I've seen it. It's definitely tragic. Like I don't know that I would recommend it for everybody, because like it does take a minute to get used to the perspective of the camera, and it does take a minute to like adjust to what you're watching. Like it is genuinely a tragic story that you're watching, but man, like it just really, really worked for me.
Yeah. The empathy exercise is to be expected, you know, like for stories like this, like you have to know that going in, that you're going to be reminded of atrocities and in society that existed back then and some that may still exist. But from a stylistic standpoint, look, you get told all the time, like consider walking in someone else's shoes. You now actually get to see what it's like to see through their eyes. At least that's how it's framed. And I dug it. Yeah. And to your point earlier that the Brutalist would be your pick, this would be my pick for best picture if I had a vote.
So like, there are so many movies that have like so many different stylistic flourishes, right? Like Wicked has so many stylistic flourishes that don't really work for me, in all honesty. I didn't hate Wicked. Like I know that there are a lot of people that like really didn't like it. I don't hate it, but like there's a lot of like style for style's sake in Wicked, right? The Nickel Boys, or it might just be Nickel Boys.
Nickel Boys, yeah.
The Nickel Boys is the book. Nickel Boys, like the style is the substance almost. Like it's like, you know, Tom Sizemore in Heat. The action is the juice. Like the style literally is the entire substance of what Moss is trying to get across in terms of what he took from reading this story and from adapting this book. In the blend of those two things, I think is what makes this so special to me as a film and as an experience, just viewing it.
Yeah. Imagine watching an NBA game, but like through Wemby's eyes, you know, and actually getting to see what guarding Jokic is like, you know, you experienced it a little differently on a much more serious and, to your point, heart-wrenching level. This is, it's on VOD now. It's like that and Sing Sing would be my big, you know, rec center Rex for this week for sure. Understanding different tones in both of them, although
totally,
unfortunately, both of them deal with you know, institution correctional facilities. But you know, I think both are worth watching for sure.
Yeah. The other thing that I would just like full-heartedly recommend that I think you were not as big of a fan of was I Saw the TV Glow. I finally have seen that. I thought that this was just like completely immaculate as well. I have this is for sure in my top 5 of this year. Like if you made me guess what my top 5 looks like right now, it's probably something along the lines of The Brutalist, Nickel Boys, I Saw the TV Glow. There's a couple of other things in there. I would have to like really look through my letterbox, but like those 3, I think are like, The Wild Robot would be up there for sure as well. Like I think that was just like remarkable. But like Jane Schoenbrunn is an unbelievable filmmaker, and I didn't even love their first movie. We're All Going to the World's Fair. I thought it was like an incredible stylistic exercise. I just didn't think like it totally worked for me in terms of like the substance. But yeah, Schoenbrunn, there are indelible images in I Saw the TV Glow that I will just like never forget. Yeah. There's a sequence with like the monster in the TV show that they're showing. There is this burning TV that, you know, just like very clearly like represents the ideal of just like how much time we like put through these TV shows that we're watching all the time and how much energy we put through them. And more than anything, like it's, you know, Jane Schoenbrunn, you know, they're a trans filmmaker and maybe non-binary. I'm sorry, I can't remember which one, but it's such an incredible expression of like the journey that people go on to find their like own identity and to find their self through the art that you consume and through the different things that you know, bring into your mind, and then how you interpret yourself through those things that you watch almost. And I don't think I've ever really seen quite as strong of a representation of that idea. And, you know, Schoenbrunn's obviously doing it through this idea of going through their journey as a trans person, but you know, it's applicable kind of across the board to everybody to me. not just, this specific journey that Schoenbrunn went on themselves. The last two recent releases, and we won't spend quite as long on these. I've seen Maria in my, desire to see all of the Academy nominated films. I have a lot of time for Pablo Larraín, actually. Like, I know that he's not everybody's favorite filmmaker, but like, I really love Jackie, and Spencer was one of my favorite films of that year. Honestly, like I thought that was incredible. Did not enjoy Maria. I thought it was quite dull, unfortunately. And I feel like a lot of people felt that way about Spencer as well. But like, to me, Spencer had this like incredible ticking clock of a score that just made you feel what was going on in Princess Diana's head. Whereas this one just doesn't really have that. And it's almost hard to get into the character of Maria Callas that Pablo Larraín is like trying to portray. I don't know if you've seen Maria yet.
Missed it. Yeah. Didn't see this. I didn't see Spencer either, actually. So
yeah, Spencer, I would recommend. Spencer is really good. This one didn't work quite as well for me. It looks every single frame that Pablo Larraín, and I forget who his cinematographer is, but he works with him on everything. Every single frame is like a absolute like work of art, and that's why it's nominated for cinematography. But it's didn't totally work for me as a film. The final one I've seen is Presence, the new Soderbergh movie.
I want to see this. So you would you recommend it or not recommend it?
I would. So ghost movie shot through the first person perspective of the ghost is the pitch here. So, interesting that we're talking about Nickel Boys in the same episode that we're talking about Presence, right? I won't say too much about this because Andrew wants to see it. I would absolutely recommend this movie.
Okay.
I've seen some people give like mixed reviews on it. It's 82 minutes. It's so quick. It zooms through, never drags. Soderbergh is just such a tight writer, such a clean writer. Like, everything about this worked. Not everything about it. Like, there are things that I have concerns about with it, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was just such an interesting exercise in the ghost story. Yeah, like it worked for me. I'm trying not to like spoil a lot of it, by saying too much, but it did work for me quite a bit.
An outstanding trailer. And it hooked me in, and I love Soderbergh, so I'm obviously in. I think it's still in theaters, so if it's not, it's going to be on VOD soon. But yeah, I'm very in, and glad you liking it now gives me the green light. Okay, I definitely now want to see it too. So
I would recommend it, and honestly, like I think it's something that like you could bring your wife to. Like, it's not wildly scary or anything.
You're setting me up for failure there. You're setting me up for failure, because then Sam said it'd be fine, and then Sam, my wife, won't talk to me because I made her watch that scary movie.
I think you're going to be okay. I do. Okay. Yeah. Look, I mean, like I watched Trainspotting recently. I watched Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. I don't know that we need to dive deep into either of those. Trainspotting's amazing. Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome is a mess that is fun. Andrew, anything else here in the rec center before we get out of here?
Nothing. So I'll say this: there's a new O.J. Simpson documentary called Manhunt on Netflix that I've seen every bit of O.J. pop culture documentary. I've read a ton of books on O.J. I think from people my age, specifically dudes my age. Like, you probably went down the OJ rabbit hole in college and did your deep dive. And that, like, there was just like a group of like 4 or 5 of us, like, oh, so let's actually read up on this thing that everybody 10 years older than us did. So I know everything about it. The only thing that I think it adds to the story, the Netflix 4-part documentary Manhunt, is that you finally get Christopher Darden to sit down for an interview, because he didn't sit down for the OJ Made in America.
Okay.
30. So you actually get to hear him talk about some of the things he like the initial, like, we can't say this word, and then Johnny Cochran saying he offended every black person in America. You get to hear his explanation for bringing the making OJ try on the glove, which is a turning point. Him wanting to bring in Mark Furman, and him not wanting to bring in Mark Furman, but recognizing you had to, or else the defense was going to bring him to the stand. Like, I think his addition alone is worth the watch. And I will just say, it was lost on me that OJ Made in America happened in 2016. So this works like a reunion. A lot of the same interview subjects are the same people. So it's like, oh, let's check in on this juror that sat down for that one. Oh, this is what Mark Furman's up to nowadays. So
yeah, I was kind of just like, do I really need to watch this? Like, after OJ
you learned nothing
America?
new, he still did it, Sam. But I'm saying in the sense of
allegedly.
Yes. Okay. He allegedly still did it. You are correct. But like the fact that it's just a 10-year later take on this, and you do, like, I actually, when I saw that Darden sat down for this, like, oh, I actually want to hear what you have to say about this. I have never actually heard you say about this. Say what you want to say about this. So I thought that was good.
Andrew, tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on.
You can find me and the fine folks at Knicks Film School covering the Knicks, the New York Knicks, on a wall-to-wall daily basis over at the Knicks Film School, on our YouTube channel, on our podcast feed, on our newsletter, on Substack, on our Patreon. Just search for Knicks Film School on all those different things, breaking it down from an X's and O's, from a cap standpoint, advanced stats, pre, post, and during. We got you covered. And today, pitchers and catchers reported. So if you want to follow me on TikTok or all social, Mets Therapy AC, I'll be bringing those back sometime in March. Those little reaction videos to any Mets coverage. And if you want to follow me personally, Andrew J Claudio _.
Go to The Athletic. Keep me employed over there. We will have some fun stuff coming up next week and throughout the coming weeks. Nothing until Sunday with Bryce and I. We will be back. We will record. There will be videos that pop up on the YouTube channel, though. Rob Dillingham will be coming. Asar Thompson will be coming. Cam Boozer is out already as the time of this recording. By all means, go watch, like, subscribe, hit the like button if you're watching this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe over on the podcast feed. Keep it locked here. We will be back on Sunday with Bryce. We'll do trivia. We'll talk about probably, I guess, whatever happened in the All-Star game. Maybe, if we care. I don't know. But that's it. Until next time, we'll talk.